Remember how we talked about Scalpers and the PS5 Pro? Well, guess what? Scalpers have found another way to strike, and it's kind of creative, to be honest. Sony finally showcased the PS5 Pro, but they made some controversial decisions that set the stage for scalping, and fans are not happy. First off, Sony decided to sell the PS5 Pro without a disk drive or a vertical stand, all for $699, which is $200 more than the standard PS5. The lack of an optical drive means you've got to buy the drive separately for $80 if you want to use your physical game collection. That brings the total cost to nearly $800. Yeah, it's wild. And as you might expect, the disk drive pre-orders went nuts. Walmart reportedly sold more than 1,000 units in 24 hours, and retailers like Amazon, Best Buy, and Target are already sold out. Naturally, scalpers saw the opportunity and are flipping these disk drives on eBay and other resale sites at way higher prices. So even before the PS5 Pro officially drops, scalpers are already cashing in. Sony's decisions, combined with the console's performance focus on older games, are rubbing people the wrong way. It's going to be interesting to see if this creates another wave of outrage, or if people will just eat the cost. Like last time. Yeah, man. Scalpers are honestly the scum of the earth. It's crazy how they find new ways to screw over actual gamers, and I really hope they shoot themselves in the foot with this PS5 Pro situation. I mean, jacking up the price of something people already feel is overpriced? Think about it. These are the people who grab up all the stock just to flip it for double or triple the price, making it harder for regular folks to get their hands on things they've been waiting for, and Sony basically handed them this opportunity by selling the disc drive separately and hiking the base price. It's like Sony didn't even think about how they're feeding scalpers another payday. I'm just hoping this move backfires hard, because at some point, even the most die-hard fans will say, screw this. If enough people push back or just stop buying from scalpers, maybe it'll send a message. But who knows with the way things are going. Oh man, if you thought we were done with the bad news, think again. This GTA 6 news is like a gut punch. Imagine waiting all these years for the game, the rumors, the hype, and then hearing that it might not even hit 60 FPS on the PS5 Pro. Yeah, you heard that right. Not even on the PS5 Pro. What a joke. Tech expert Richard Ledbetter from Digital Foundry is the one who dropped this bomb. According to him, Rockstar's games have always pushed the CPU to its limits, and that's why they usually launch at 30 frames per second. So even with the PS5 Pro's beefed up GPU and all those fancy features like improved ray tracing and AI upscaling, the game will probably still run at 30 FPS. Why? Because the PS5 Pro uses the same CPU as the base model. It's not a GPU issue, it's a CPU bottleneck. So yeah, we might get some gorgeous visuals, but at the same old frame rate. And honestly, when you're driving through a massive, complex world like GTA's, the last thing you want is to be capped at 30 FPS. To make matters worse, Ledbetter says there's no evidence Rockstar is targeting 60 FPS at all, and that GTA 6 could just follow in the footsteps of every other Grand Theft Auto title. I mean, seriously, after all these years of hype and the fact that the game is likely going to be one of the biggest releases of the decade, they can't even hit 60 FPS on next-gen hardware? What's the point of buying a PS5 Pro then? It's bad enough we've got scalpers running wild with PS5 Pro disc drives, and now we're finding out that one of the most anticipated games of the generation might be stuck at 30 FPS. It's like the hits just keep coming. Well, let's not end things on a downer. There's finally some good news for the PS5 Pro. Remember how we were talking about all those negatives? Here's a bright spot. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is killing it on the PS5 Pro, and experts are backing it up. CNET already gave us a glowing review, but now we've got Digital Foundry's John Linneman stepping in to highlight just how much better the game runs. According to Linneman, the jump from the regular PS5 to the Pro is night and day. The game finally hits a smooth 60 FPS on the PS5 Pro, and that's not even the best part. He mentioned how the image quality was awful on the base PS5, so bad that it made him hold off playing. But with the PS5 Pro, it's a whole new experience. Crisp visuals, better fidelity, and no performance mode downgrade. Linneman specifically pointed out how PlayStation's Spectral Super Resolution, PSSR, is making a difference. This tech upscales images so well that the game looks way sharper without crushing the performance. We're talking 4K-like visuals at 60 FPS. Thanks to this feature, it's not perfect, but compared to the generic upscaling used before, it's a huge improvement. So yeah, while some games like GTA 6 might be struggling to hit that golden 60 FPS, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is nailing it. Is it enough to justify the $700 price tag of the PS5 Pro? That's up for debate, but it's nice to see some positive feedback rolling in after all the criticism. Alright, let's talk Dragon's Dogma 2 on the PS5 Pro. If you're hoping for 60 FPS and 4K resolution, you're not alone. The game initially launched on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series, and while it's had its fair share of performance performance issues, Capcom has been actively working on updates to fix things. These issues especially hit when there were a lot of NPCs on screen, which tanked the frame rate, definitely not what you want in an action-packed RPG. Capcom's aware of the problems and has promised more updates. They've mentioned that they're working on improving CPU load, reducing crashes, and making additional adjustments across all platforms. It's great to see that Capcom is at least owning up to the issues and is actively addressing them, but whether it'll hit that sweet spot of 60 FPS on the PS5 Pro remains to be seen. Dragon's Dogma 2 has been a big deal for Capcom, selling 2.5 million units in just 11 days, despite the microtransaction drama and performance complaints. IGN gave the game an 8 out of 10, calling it a redo rather than a full sequel, with all the same strengths and weaknesses of the original. The PS5 Pro is where a lot of people are pinning their hopes for that flawless 60 FPS 4K experience. Whether or not Capcom's updates can leverage the Pro's improved hardware to deliver on that is the question. Right now, things are looking hopeful, but we'll have to wait and see what PS5 Pro Enhanced means for this game as more updates roll out. My biggest issue with Sony's recent presentation is the lack of third-party games, especially Unreal Engine 5 games that we know run poorly on Xbox and PS5. For me, the real concern is UE5 games on consoles. Look, I know you guys love Black Myth Wukong, and every time someone criticizes that game, you come at them with pitchforks. You've come after me many times. And listen, I love the game. I love it a lot. When I first played it, I was in performance mode at 60 frames per second, but I kept dying in boss fights. I genuinely thought I was just terrible at the game or that my reflexes were shot. Like maybe I should just go back to playing Spider-Man 2, which I can beat on hard mode with my eyes closed right now. But guess what I did? I finally listened to Digital Foundry and switched the game to balance mode, which runs between 30 and 40 FPS. It's a bit sharper, and you know what? I started beating bosses more easily in quality mode. Suddenly, I didn't have terrible reflexes anymore. You know what that means? Frame generation, aka fake frames. So while in performance mode, the game looks smooth, but the input delay completely kills the fun. Digital Foundry was right. I've bashed on those guys before for their takes on graphics and PS5 Pro predictions, and now I feel a bit stupid because they were more right than wrong. In the end, quality mode was too much for me in Black Myth, so balance mode ended up being the perfect middle ground. My issue, though, is how the game runs as a whole on PS5, and the graphical issues I encountered in Black Myth were the same ones I faced in the first Descendant. On the bright side, there's still hope for the game to be better optimized on PS5 in the future, and here's why. I also played Immortals of Avium, and that game runs pretty smoothly on PS5. I think it's an unlocked frame rate between 30 and 60 FPS, but I never felt it drop below 40, to be honest. The only time it drops is during cutscenes, which hit 30 FPS, but I can deal with that. I also played Remnant 2 this year, another Unreal Engine game. I heard it ran like crap when it launched on PS5, but when I played it, it ran incredibly smooth. It didn't feel like I was playing a 720p game. It actually looked like a solid 1440p at 60 FPS, with occasional dips to 1080p. All in all, it was rock solid. So, what I'm saying is, there's definitely a chance for Black Myth to be improved on PS5. And please, Sony and developers, for the love of God, ditch frame generation. Ditch the fake 4K. All this FSR, DLSS, frame generation, and upscaled 4K just looks and feels like crap. It feels like we're streaming a game from YouTube. Make it 1080p, I don't care. Just give me texture filtering, smooth 60 FPS, and I'm good. As for the PS5 Pro, if you really want to sell this machine, you need to show people that it can run Unreal Engine 5 at 4K 60 FPS. Otherwise, what's the point? Sure, you can get away with $700 for the machine in the US, but what were you thinking about the rest of the world? In Europe, a full PS5 with a disk drive and stand costs over $1,000 US. Europeans aren't going to buy that. I know Europeans, and trust me, Sony just lost the whole Eastern European market to PC again. Trust me, I know them. Daniel, the editor of the channel, is European. Sorry, I think I went off track again.